everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to share with all of you part 2 of my Sephora VIB Sale haul, along with some other hauls of products that I have picked up recently. So if you're interested to see what products I picked up and a demo of them on my face, then just stick around. So before we get into the demo, let me just first quickly run through all of the products. So first off, I finally picked up the Natasha Denona Retro Palette. This has been a long time coming. I am so excited about this palette. I love mauvey neutral tones, and so I've been eyeing this ever since it came out, and now I'm very excited to play around with it and have it in my collection. I also picked up the Westman Atelier Clean Glow Trio in the deeper shade. It comes in 3 minis of their cream face products, so a highlight, a blush, and a contour stick. I also picked up a Permagel eyeliner from McGrath in the shade Black Coffee, and this triple pack of the Kogendo Spa Water Cleansing Wipes. This is my favorite makeup remover. It is very pricey, and so I wanted to stock up during the VIB sale. But these are just the most gentle yet effective cleansing wipes that I have ever tried. I think it's a special type of micellar water that they use, and I love these especially for travel. I also picked up the Tom Ford Eye Defining Pen. This is the double-ended eyeliner, and by far the most expensive eyeliner I have ever picked up. I basically hope that this is like 2 eyeliners in one to justify the cost, but I'm very excited to try this out and see if it makes doing that outer corner wing a breeze. Lastly, I have this Sephora Favorites Give Me Some Balm set. This comes with a mint-colored makeup case that says Sephora on it. And then inside, there's a full size of the McGrath Divinyl lipstick in the shade Nude Venus. There's also a mini rose lip cream from Fresh, a Sephora coconut lip balm, an Ilia lip mask, and a tiny Tarte jelly glaze. I bought this mostly for the McGrath Divinyl lipstick, but it's nice that it comes with all these other minis. And then in addition to my Sephora haul, I also got a bunch of new products that I wanted to quickly show you from my IPSY Glam Bag X. So first we have this Huda Beauty lip balm in the shade Dirty Thoughts, the famous By Terry Hyaluronic Hydra powder, the Huda Beauty setting powder in the shade Sugar Cookie, the Rare Beauty liquid luminizer in Outshine, these eyelashes from Winsome, and a couple skincare products. These facial radiance pads from First Aid Beauty, and this face cleansing device from PMD. I've never used one of these face cleansing devices before, so I'm excited to see how they work. And this Glam Bag X was curated by Huda from Huda Beauty, so that's why there's a bunch of Huda Beauty products. Finally, in this video, I'll also be trying out the Cheek Pop from Clinique in the shade Black Honey. I was actually originally going to pick this up in the Sephora VIB sale, but I checked Clinique's website and they had an even bigger sale on this, and so I got this for only like $16, which I think is a steal. And I think that's also a good reminder to always check the brand websites as well during the Sephora VIB sale, because you never know when they might have some bigger sales. So those are all of the products that I hauled, and I can only try on some of them in today's video. So definitely let me know in the comments below if there's certain products you are particularly interested in and would like to see in a future video. So without further ado, let's get into today's demo. So to start off today's look, I'm going to try out the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation. This is a little sample card that I got with my Sephora order, and it claims to be a medium coverage foundation with a natural finish. So I'm going to first open up the shade 220N and see how this looks against my skin. So let me first just swatch this, and it looks like this might be a decent shade match, maybe a tad bit light, so I might actually also go into 250. To start off, I'm just going to go ahead and use this and dot this all over my face. Okay, so that's all that you get in that pack. So with my beauty blender, I'm going to go in now and blend this in. So there's one very light layer on my skin. I think the shade match is overall pretty good. Also, there's no fragrance to this product. I do want some more coverage though, so I'm going to also go into this shade 250. And let's just also put this over here. Okay, I think this actually might be an even better shade match, so that's great. Let me go ahead and dot this as well all over my face. And again, I'm just gonna blend this out with my beauty blender. So here we have 220N and 250C all over my face. Overall, I would say the finish of this foundation is really natural and it blended in super easily to my skin. The sample packet was a little bit stingy though, so I don't really feel like I was able to actually build it up to medium coverage, even though I used all of the product in those two shades. So to up the coverage now, I'm gonna go in with my new concealer from ABH. This is the Magic Touch Concealer in the shade 7. And I have really been loving this concealer ever since I got it. It's a really nice, pretty close to full coverage concealer, but it blends in super easily, looks really nice and natural on the skin. And a little bit really goes a long way with this concealer, but at the same time, I don't find it to be at all drying on my skin, even though I have relatively dry skin. So now that we have these base products down, I am really curious to try out these two powders. So here we have the By Terry Hyaluronic Hydra powder, and this is in the colorless shade. So I'm gonna go in with my Artist Medium brush from Wayne Goss and just lightly dab my brush into this powder. And I'm gonna apply this to the left side of my face and just sweep it primarily around the center of my face. It does really get up into the air when you use it with this kind of fluffy brush. So here we have the By Terry powder on this side of my face and this side is unset. You probably can't see that big of a difference just because this base is not that luminous to start with, but I do think this side is just slightly more matte. With powders though, I'm gonna have to really do more wear tests with this to see how much I like it. Next we have the Huda Beauty Translucent Setting Powder, and this is in the shade Sugar Cookie. Okay, so this comes with this sort of top, so once you pry it open, you just have all of your setting powder here. Okay, this is a lot of powder. Let me be a little bit careful here. Alrighty, so taking this brush again, I'm actually gonna just take what's on this lid for now. It really picks up a lot, so let me actually tap some of that off and just apply this to this side of my face. I'm usually more of a pressed powder kind of person, so I'm not really used to all this kick up that you get with loose setting powders. And this one has a really strong scent. I feel like the By Terry one, I didn't really notice any scent when I put it on, but this one definitely packs a punch in terms of perfume. It's a very floral smell, so I'm personally not the biggest fan of perfumes, so that is one ding in my book. Also, I'm not a huge fan of how this packaging is because basically once you take off this cap, it's just all of the powder there. So I feel like this is a lot more messy than the By Terry one. For the By Terry one, there are these holes, and so just a little bit of product comes out. Alrighty, so here we have the two powders on. On this side we have the Huda, and on this side we have the By Terry. So far, I don't really notice much of a difference between the two. They both look slightly drying under my eyes, but I do have dry skin, so that's a common problem for me. They both have definitely set down my skin though. I'd be curious to try this with more of a luminous base to get more of a sense of how mattifying these are. So definitely subscribe down below if you want to hear about my updated impressions as I use these products more. And also let me know if you'd be interested in a setting powder showdown at some point, comparing these or other powders. So since I didn't pick up any new brow products in this haul, I went off camera to do my brows. I used the two products I picked up in my last Sephora haul. I first went in with the Huda Beauty Balm Brows Pencil in the shade Soft Black. This is my current favorite brow pencil. So this is actually the second pencil that I picked up. I just finished my first one. And then I went in with the brow cream, also from Huda's Balm Brows line. This is only my second or third time using this brow cream, so I'm still not sure how I feel about it. It's a pretty solid brow cream, but it's not blowing me away the way the pencil did. And I have this in the shade Medium Brown. Next up, I want to put something on my lips, so let's go in with the Diamond Balm from Huda Beauty. So the packaging for this lip product is slightly iridescent. And here we have the product itself. It also has that iridescent unicorn skin exterior. And for a lip balm, this is really pretty. It is lavender in shade, but it has all of these beautiful sparkles on the outside. Let me give this a swatch. Alrighty, I would say in the swatch you can't really see that much. It's actually not that glittery because the glitter is mainly on the exterior of the bullet. Now let's put this on the lips. Alrighty, so similar to what I saw in the swatch, I would say when you actually put this on the lips, it more or less just looks like a normal lip balm. This does have a slight fragrance to it. It's the same fragrance as in a lot of other Huda Beauty lipsticks. So the cream lipsticks that I have been loving for a while now also have this same sort of sweet, slightly floral, slightly candy-like taste. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see on camera, but there is a tiny bit of shimmer and iridescence to this balm. But I do think it's mainly from the exterior of the bullet. As you're sweeping it around your lips, some of the exterior glitters do get on your lips, but it's not like there's actually a ton of glitter going through the bullet. Overall, this is definitely not a product I would have picked up but for it being in the IPSY bag. So I think it's nice, but probably not something that I would repurchase. I'm personally not that into glittery lip balms, but if you are, this does feel like a very solid, comfortable formula. So next up, let's try out some of the products from this Westman Atelier Clean Glow Trio. So I was pretty sketched out when I first opened this box. This is what it came looking like. So you can see that this box part was ripped when it came, and also it was clear that someone had taken them out and put them back in, because this first one over here, which is the gray one, is actually Dodo, but it was in this truffle compartment. And then these two black ones were put in reverse orientation, so you can see that this one and this one are in one orientation and this one is in a different orientation. And also there's some slight scuffs and scratches on the top of truffle. Might be able to see that right here. So that really sketched me out because this was a pricey product. It was $78 full price and I got it with the Rouge discount, but it's clearly a product that someone has rummaged around with. So probably someone bought this and then returned it. And so I will still try this out for you guys in today's video just for testing purposes, but I am pretty sketched out, so I might return this product and see if I can exchange it for an actually new one. And this is the first time this has ever happened to me with Sephora products, so I'm not really sure what happened in this particular case, but I did just want to note that for you guys. So I'm thinking about doing a dedicated video to this trio just because I think there's a lot of information to run through. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. For today's look, I'm just gonna go in with Truffle. That is the bronzing shade. So I'm just gonna take this little stick and sweep it along the places I would normally bronze and contour. And then I don't normally do nose contour, but I am a bit curious. So let me just put a tiny bit of this on my nose as well. And in case you guys are curious, here's the swatch of the product. It is a really creamy emollient formula. Now going in with my Zoeva 110, I'm gonna just blend this guy out. And I am not a huge cream product fan typically, but I picked up this trio because I've just heard so many rave reviews about Westman Atelier, so I figured the Sephora VIB sale would be a good time to try it out. Okay, I am not a fan of how that blended out here. I would say that along my cheekbone, it's looking a little bit patchy. I do have some texture here, and I feel like it didn't really blend very evenly on that texture. Let's see how it goes on this side where I have less texture on my face. All right, I think that looks a little bit better. This bronzing shade, when I blend it out, doesn't necessarily look as much like a bronzer on me as I would like. I think it has a slight purple undertone on me. Alrighty, so here we have Truffle all blended out. Again, I am not a huge fan of this just based on this very initial impression, but I'm gonna try this out again and maybe do a dedicated video, so hopefully I can give you guys more of a full review then. So moving right along, for blush, I want to try out the Clinique Cheek Pop in the shade Black Honey. This is a really beautiful blush compact. I love the clear acrylic packaging and the beautiful flower embossment. Let me just give you guys a quick swatch of this. So here is just one swipe of the blush, so it's quite pigmented. I'm gonna go in with this cheek brush from Sonia G and just lightly tap in. I was attracted to this shade both because it would match the Black Honey lip balm that I got recently, but also because I thought it was just very unique. So this is kind of pinky, plummy, but in a very interesting shade, almost like a black currant meets pink shade. I am really liking how this is actually applying in pretty sheer layers, even though, as you saw from the swatch, it was actually quite pigmented. But I feel like you can pretty gradually build this product up, and it has a pretty natural finish on the skin. I'm not really seeing any shimmery particles, but it's also definitely not a matte blush. It's more of kind of a satin finish. Alrighty, so that is a really nice sheer layer of blush all over my skin. I would say that if you have a deeper skin tone and you're looking at lighter shades of this blush, it might take a little while to build up, because even with this shade, which I think is one of the deepest shades in the collection, it did take me a little while to build it up to this opacity. But so far on initial impression, this is really great. So for highlight, I'm going to go into this Positive Light Liquid Luminizer from Rare Beauty. This is in the shade Outshine. Wow, this is a really big tube of highlight. I think this is probably enough to last the rest of your life, but definitely enough to last until it goes bad. And this is in the golden shade. Let me give you guys a swatch of this. Wow, okay, that is a huge doe foot. I don't know if you actually want to put this much highlight on your skin, but let me just give you guys a little bit of a swatch. Oh wow, that is really golden. You might not be able to tell just how golden it is because when the light hits it, it looks a little bit more pale, but definitely when I look at it, this is truly a yellow gold highlight. So I'm just gonna take a little bit off the doe foot with my finger, take as little as possible, and just dot this onto my cheekbone. I think actually I can probably put some on this side as well. The yellow definitely comes through, so I would certainly suggest getting a different shade if you don't like yellow highlight. Personally, I think I would have preferred one of the other shades, but of course, since this was from my IPSY bag, I didn't actually get to choose the shade. Although I will say blurred out, the yellow is a little bit less prominent than when I first put it on. I'm not a huge fan of liquid highlights typically because I feel like they're more finicky to use for me than a powder highlight because I usually have to use my fingers with these. And sometimes they pick up the blush underneath. All right, so there we go, a decent amount of highlight on both of my cheeks. I would say the overall finish is less intense than what I originally anticipated, just kind of looking at this in tube. It's a more natural finish than I would have expected, but you can still see some opacity from this, so I do feel like it's kind of covering up the blush to some extent. I'm actually going to go in with just a little bit more of that blush and try to make sure that you can still see that shade. I don't think I would normally pair this blush and this highlight together just because of how yellow the highlight is. It's definitely changing the overall tone of the look. Alrighty, next up, let's go into probably the most exciting portion of today's video, which is the Natasha Denona Retro Palette. Here it is in all its brand new untouched glory. So I'm definitely going to eventually do a dedicated video to this palette. Let me know if you guys are interested in or excited about that. This palette has been out for a while now, so I'm probably not going to prioritize that video compared to other videos unless you guys are really interested. I personally, though, am extremely excited about this palette. Basically, when spoilers of this palette first came out, I was super excited. This looked right up my alley. I love these sorts of mauvey tones for an everyday look. So I'm going to save the swatches and demos using all the shades to the dedicated video on this palette. So today I'm just going to do a really simple everyday look because I am curious whether this can be a palette that I would use on an everyday basis. So first off, with my Wayne Goss number 16, I'm just gonna dip into this Mod shade, which is just a really light shade. So I'm just gonna use this to kind of set the concealer that I have on my lids and just sweep it all over the crease and under the brow bone. As you can see, this doesn't really add a ton of pigment on my skin tone, just a tiny bit of brightness. I will say, looking at this palette now, one thing I am noticing is it doesn't necessarily have a designated brow bone or inner corner shade. That is frequently the case with these 15 pan Natasha Denona palettes, but just something I wanted to note because that's the one thing I don't really love about the bronze palette, which is otherwise one of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. Now with that same brush, I'm gonna go into Vivian, which is also a really light shade, and just sweep this all over the crease area. Hopefully this can add just a little bit more depth. Although now that I'm putting it on the lids, this actually looks lighter than my skin tone and maybe a little bit thicker than Maud, because this is in one of her creamy matte formulas that's almost like a cream to powder formulation. And so this definitely has a bit more opacity in comparison to Maud, which is just a normal powder. Okay, so not a huge fan that these two are kind of redundant on my skin tone, albeit in different formulas. So let's see now if I can go into Nude Mauve, and hopefully this is the transition shade for me. Okay, yeah, this is much better. This kind of reminds me of Valoria from Divine Rose 1 from Pat McGrath. So I'm definitely gonna have to do that comparison in the review video. This on me is just a really light mauvey shade that adds a tiny bit of contour to the crease area. Now with my Wayne Goss number 17, I'm gonna go into Go-Go, and this is also one of those creamy matte formulas. I'm gonna go into this and see if I can, okay, interesting. All right, so I was about to say I'm gonna see if I can add some depth with this, but similar to Vivian, I feel like these creamy matte formulas come across a little bit more vibrantly on the lids than you'd think, because I was looking at this and thinking, okay, Nude Mauve is really light and then I can add some depth with Go-Go, but actually this is coming across as being a little bit more light and vibrant than Nude Mauve because of the formulation. So that's interesting. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just a little bit unexpected given how these shades look in pan. So I feel like Go-Go, even though it looks a little bit more muted and deeper in pan, is coming across as more of a light pinky, peachy shade. So kind of the opposite of bringing depth to the crease area. So now with my Wayne Goss number 19, I'm going to go into Amara, and hopefully this can bring in some of that depth that I've been talking about. Okay, yeah, so there we go. This definitely brings some depth to the party. And because this is a very everyday look that I'm going for, I'm going to just concentrate this on the outer corners of my lids and not go any deeper than Amara. If I were going for a smoky look though, I would definitely want to add some apart as well. Alrighty, there we go. So far, all of the shades are blending in impeccably. I will say that these two creamy mattes are performing a little bit better than some of her previous creamy mattes. So if you really dislike that formula based on your experience with some of her larger palettes, it does seem like she has reformulated. So this is definitely a different formulation compared to the creamy mattes in Metropolis, for example. Next, I'm going to go into Patty with my Refer number 21 brush and use this all over. Or actually, maybe I'm just going to use this on the inner corners because I thought this was going to be a little bit more of a different tone in comparison to the mattes, but it's less distinct from the mattes than I thought it would be. So I do want a little bit more of a pop. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this in the inner corner for now, just so we can see that. And then using the other side of this brush, I'm going to actually go into Helio and put this on the center of the lid. I will say that all of these shades are a lot more similar on my lids, at least, than I thought they would be in pan, which is a bit of a limitation. I mean, the same could be said about the bronze palette, which is a palette I really love despite that. But at least upon initial impression, that is a downside to me. Like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I really can't see a difference between my inner corner area and the center of my lid, even though I would say Helio and Patty look decently different in pan. On the lids though, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of difference. In general, this whole lid look, even though I used a bunch of different shades, matte and shimmer, I think I could probably achieve a really similar look to this with just 2 eyeshadows because they all kind of just blur together. And then with my soft definer from Sonia G, I'm also going to go into Nude Mauve, sweep this a little bit across all of the lower lash line area. And then using the tip in Amara, I'm going to deepen up the outer portion just a tiny bit. And then going back with my rougher brush, I'm going to take a tiny bit of Helio and put this on the inner portion of the lower lash line. Alrighty, so here is the finished eyeshadow look. I would say I like this look overall. It's a really pretty, everyday, soft glam look. I will admit though, I had very high expectations for this palette, and I am slightly disappointed that even though I used 7 of the shades today, which is basically half of the palette, again, I don't think the look I created would have been that different if I had just gone into 2 of the shades. It's not really giving me a ton of multi-dimensionality. I'm gonna have to play around more with this palette and see if I can stretch it to create a lot of different looks. After all, the goal of having a 15 pan palette is that you should be able to create more diverse looks. So we'll see. Definitely let me know down below if you are interested in more content about this palette, and subscribe to hear my updated impressions about this over time. For eyeliner today, I'm gonna go in with this Permagel eyeliner from Pat McGrath. Look how beautiful this box is. I definitely save all of my Pat McGrath packaging. This is what the eye pencil looks like, pretty standard, and I got this in the shade Black Coffee, and it also comes with a little Pat McGrath sharpener. Here we have a swatch of the eyeliner. It's an extremely creamy, easy to glide on formula, and is a little bit smudgeable at first, but does dry down. So I actually bought this not to use as a standard eyeliner, but because I've seen a lot of Pat McGrath's videos where she uses this as a darkening base at the bottom of eyeshadows. So she'll sweep this, for example, on the outer corner area, blend it out with a brush, and then layer additional shadows over it. For today's look though, I'm gonna try this out as just a normal eyeliner to see how it performs in that regard. Alrighty, so I would say that compared to pretty much any pencil eyeliner I've tried in the past, this one is way more creamy, which is really awesome for gliding across the lash line. I generally only use liquid eyeliner for my wings because I like having that precision and I don't like anything that tugs on my lids. So I do really like that this has pretty minimal tugging for a pencil eyeliner. It does lack a little bit of precision though, so I'm gonna go in with my Reference number 29 brush, which is just this really tiny little brush, and I'm gonna use this to try to just clean up the edges a little bit, because definitely liquid eyeliner gives you a bit more precision in comparison. Alrighty, so here we go. Here is the finished eye look. So now to finish off this look, I've had the Huda Beauty Balm on for a while now, and it's still super comfortable. So I do really like this formula, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the shimmers. But I do like to have some pigment on my lips. So I'm actually gonna go in now with the Sephora Favorites Give Me Some Balm. I'm gonna go into this Pat McGrath Divinyl lipstick. Here we have the beautiful Pat McGrath Compact, and this is in the shade Nude Venus. Here's a couple swipes of the product so you can see this is a pretty sheer balm-like texture. So now let's get this on the lips. Wow, this has a really strong birthday cake fragrance to it, which is not a scent in any of my other Pat McGrath lip products. So here we have it on the lips, and this is a really simple My Lips But Better kind of shade for my skin tone. It does have some golden shimmers in it, which has a slight plumping effect on the lips. I will say this pigment is not totally even in application. It is clinging to some of the dry patches on my lips. So I'm not a huge fan of that aspect. Typically with Pat McGrath's lip balms, the ones that don't have the shimmer, I don't have that problem at all. They just look really smooth on the lips. I think the nature of this formula makes it look a little bit more patchy. To me, this formula is kind of like a hybrid between her normal balms and her Blitz Trance lipsticks, which I'm not a huge fan of. So I'll have to keep wearing this formula to see how I feel about it, but at least upon initial impression, not my favorite Pat McGrath lip formula. Alrighty, so here we have the final everyday look using my recently hauled products. What do you guys think? So overall, I would say that this haul has definitely had its hits and misses. In terms of the powders, looking at them on my face now, I would say I definitely prefer the way the By Terry has worn under my eyes. The Huda definitely looks a lot more drying on this side of my face. And also, I'm not a fan of how fragranced this product is. So at least upon initial impressions, the By Terry is definitely doing a lot better than the Huda. These Westman Atelier minis have so far not impressed me. Of course, today I only used the contour shade Truffle, but I feel like it didn't really do very well on the side of my face where I do have some texture. It looks fine on the side without texture, but of course for a luxury formula, I would like it to be able to perform on both sides of my face. Also, I am very sketched out that this package was very obviously opened and possibly used. This Clinique blush is so far a hit with me. I really love this shade. It's a pretty subdued pink, so I think it's really great for an everyday basis when you want to have a nice healthy looking flush, slightly cool toned, but not something that's straight up pink. Also, this packaging and this embossment is just so pretty, and considering I only spent like $16 on this, I am extremely impressed. The Rare Beauty highlighter is so-so at best for me in this initial impression. I feel like the effect it gives on the cheeks is similar to a pretty cheap powder highlight. I feel like with cheaper powder highlight formulas, they don't really provide that much shine, but they do provide some degree of opacity, so they kind of cover up the products that you have underneath. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. I like my highlights to really allow my blush to shine through. And I want the highlight to either be pretty imperceptible on the skin or to be a little bit more blinding. And I feel like this is neither. In person, you can see very clearly that I do have highlight on my skin, but it's also not a really beautiful blinding highlight. It's like trying to be natural, but kind of failing at it. The Huda Beauty Lip Balm is a really nice, comfortable formula. I am definitely a fan of this formulation and think I'll get a decent amount of use from this balm. I almost wish though that it didn't come with the glitters because I'm not a huge fan of having shimmery products without any pigment on my lips. But for a product in an IPSY Glam Bag, I think this is pretty great. For the Natasha Denona Retro palette, I would say that my first impressions are a bit lukewarm. I am very excited to play around more with this palette and see how far I can stretch it. But at least upon initial impressions, it does seem slightly less versatile than I was hoping. With 15 shades, I would have hoped that the look I created today would look just a tiny bit more multi-dimensional. Of course, today I did not use Psychedelic, which should add a lot of sparkle to the party, and I did not use Apart, which would add a lot more depth. So in future looks, I'll definitely dip into those to see how much variability I can get in the looks. The quality though is really impeccable. The Pat McGrath eyeliner though is so far a hit with me. I haven't tried it with the primary use case I have in mind, which is as an eyeshadow base, but I am impressed so far with just how incredibly creamy this formulation is. Usually I hate using pencil eyeliner on my lash line just because I feel like it's always dragging and tugging. But this one actually was really comfortable and did a pretty good job of doing a wing, even though it wasn't the most precise wing. Finally, for the Pat McGrath Divinyl lipstick, this is a nice but not great product in my book so far. I wouldn't necessarily recommend running out and getting this. I think this is a really pretty shade and a really nice, natural, my lips but better look. I imagine I will get some decent use out of this product, but I'm not liking this as much as my other Pat McGrath lip products and my lip products from some other brands. So that's it for today's try-on haul. I hope that this was helpful for any of you who have been curious about these products. Definitely let me know down in the comments below if you're interested in a more in-depth dive into any of these products, since today was really just my very initial impressions. I would also love to know down in the comments below what you guys picked up in the Sephora VIB sale and what products you've been loving. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for the support, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!